us all together. Lord, we gather in your name as children of a sovereign God. Forever we proclaim, to God be all glory.
Good morning. How you doing? It is Tuesday, September the 30th, 2025. Welcome to episode 458 of The Thinking Theologian as we continue our journey through the scriptures. So today we finish the Old Testament. Tomorrow is October 1st. We start the New Testament. So I hope you're ready to go. So today we read Malachi chapters 1 through 4. The title of today is The Speech of a Priest. The focal scripture is in Malachi 2:7, and this is what it says. As for the lips of a priest should guard knowledge, and people should desire instruction from his mouth, because he is the messenger of the Lord of Armies. So words have power. Words can bring life, and they can bring death. I've seen the words of others bring back people from a place of absolute despair. When someone is encouraged and told the truth in love, it is a soothing balm to the soul. I have also seen words destroy other people. Words that were harsh, mean, and with the intent to hurt another for a variety of reasons. How a person speaks reveals their heart and their relationship with the Lord. Make no doubt and make no mistake about it. We try to gloss this over and make excuses. So in today's reading, we see that speech from a religious leader, especially the pastor, priest, elder, should guard knowledge. This speech should be so soothing that people desire knowledge from this leader, from this person. And so their speech should be such as that people desire to be around them because of how they speak and how they speak to others and how they speak in general. The priest's speech should be understood as direct words from the Lord. So a minister must understand, elder, pastor, priest, however you want to do it, they must understand that when they are speaking, they're representing the Lord, not just when they're preaching on Sunday morning, but everywhere else. And this has been a big conviction for me, because there are times that I can be moody at home and times I can do other things that do not represent godly speech where I should be. And it is wrong for me to act and behave that way to the people I say I love the most. It is not a godly reflection. I'm teaching my son something that I shouldn't be teaching him. And sometimes when I get attitude, even if I'm having a bad day, I demonstrate to my wife an uncaring person. That is not accurate. And it can't be that way. And so, again, what I said, this is not just when a preacher preaches, not just words, it's words from the Lord. This is not just when they preach a message, but in how they live their life on a daily basis. You cannot act and speak one way on a Sunday morning and the rest of the week act and speak another way and expect God to use you in big and mighty ways. It does not happen that way, and it reveals a false heart, and it reveals other issues that we're going to address. So what is the practical implication for us today? If you believe you are called to be a pastor and your speech is terrible, you need to step away and get your heart right before the Lord. I really believe it's a whole nother topic that we don't do a good enough job of looking at people before they go into ministry. It's not near, especially in our Southern Baptist circles, it's not near robust enough to make sure some people are that they'll go, I've known this person forever. Great. They need to be investigated because people can hide things. And when I mean investigated, I mean the presbytery should come together and ask very deep and probing questions. I know during my ordination, I can't remember the exact length, but I know it was over 4 hours. And it was done weeks before my ordination was scheduled. Actually, my ordination wasn't scheduled until after I passed the presbytery. And that's where a group of men get together and ask a potential candidate a whole bunch of questions. And they determine, is this person right and called in the ministry, and will they do a good job? Mine was very intense. I had people, because of my age, that were intentionally trying to trip me up and intentionally asking me very difficult questions to see how I would respond and what I would do. And it was hard. It was stressful, but it was good. It was good for me. And now I've been part of some where I've known the person. Here it is. Let's kind of move on. But we don't get down to the depth of their theology, how they believe. And I believe as you go further, that the pastors, the potential pastors' wives should be interviewed, and children, of how they speak and how they act. Are they the same outside of church as they are inside of church? And it should be a very thorough process. And I think there's nothing wrong with that because we should line up with the biblical standard. I know I got on a rabbit trail there, but that's just kind of my opinion on that. And so the practical implication is that if you're called to preach and your speech is bad, you don't need to be in the ministry. You need to step away. You need to get your heart right before the Lord. So if you talk about others behind their backs, you're a gossip. If you speak negatively towards those whom disagree with you, you have a jealous heart. If you use the pulpit to address issues, you are a spiritual abuser. In all of these areas and more, your speech reveals your heart and ability to minister. And if you do these things, you can't minister well. If you can be defined by any of these, you need to seek biblical counseling and deal with your issues and step away from pastoral ministry. God will provide. If you believe God has called you to it and he's going to do a work in you, you need to go get these issues dealt with and then come back to ministry so you can deal with things properly in a godly, positive way. Now, on the positive, that's the negative side. On the positive side, godly speech brings life and exalts the Lord. Faithful pastors leave a trail of people who are better than they were when they were found. And if that's not your MO, then there's a problem. They encourage others on in truth and love. Pastors with good speech are always truthful and can speak to everyone with kindness and respect. A pastor who speaks to you well privately leaves an impression that goes beyond the sermon. It demonstrates the way God speaks to his children. So when a pastor speaks to you in a private setting, because some people know how to play the game out in front of other people, but in private, on one-on-one, on where things are going on, even in small group settings, they demonstrate to you who they are. When they show you who they are, believe who they are. But I've seen so many positive traits. It is hard sometimes to imagine there are negative, but there are, because unfortunately, I've even seen negative. It's only ever happened once. I've only ever experienced one person that is like this. And I can tell you from what it is, the damage they've caused and the issues they've brought up are reprehensible, to say the least. And so, but a good one is worth anything and everything. And because of who they are, because they know their speech matters and how they speak. No pastor I've ever met, except for one, would ever allow another church member to ever be spoken negatively about, and they would never speak about another church member. Whether or not what they thought, I can't tell you. But I've never heard of a pastor ever using speech to degrade somebody, to talk down to somebody, to talk bad about somebody, ever, until one situation I ran into. And so it was very jarring, to say the least. So the point of today is for you to have a high speech standard for pastors, and you should. No, they are not perfect and they'll make mistakes. It doesn't mean they're not going to have a bad day. They're not going to blow up maybe or be frustrated or be annoyed or be aggravated, because we all get to that point. However, if they continually hurt others and speak in mean and degrading ways, they are unfit for ministry. They are verbal and spiritual abusers. I'm going to say what they are. That's what they are. And there's a book, a very good book I can recommend to you that talks about that, of how these people act and behave and what they do. As believers, we must do a better job of protecting the people and having higher standards. So examine your speech and expect good speech from those who lead God's church. That should be the expectation. It shouldn't be the exception to the rule. And so the speech of a priest matters. And it makes no doubt as we go here of how Malachi is addressing the speech of a priest, and there's 400 years of silence where there's no prophet. Then all of a sudden John comes on the scene and Jesus comes on the scene. There's no doubt in my mind that the issue is that the people who are supposed to be leading the people aren't prepared, and their speech is such they cannot be spokesmen for God of what they do, because you can do all things well. But if you treat others and speak to others in ways that are ungodly and unbiblical, you do not meet the biblical qualifications. And in a few weeks, we'll get to the biblical qualifications of what an elder, deacon, pastor, all those things look like. And they're very high standards, and they're very clear standards. But often we don't hold people to them when we should. And so speech matters. How we speak to others matters. And if you see it as an issue, it needs to be dealt with. So if you're in church leadership and people you know are doing this, they need to be taken off to the side. I don't mean to be fired immediately, but they need to be forced to go have counseling. They need to go get their heart right and things dealt with. If not, then there's a real spiritual issue that must be dealt with because they don't realize there's a problem. So understand that speech matters in every aspect in what we do. So tomorrow we start the book of Matthew, chapters 1 through 4. We finish the Old Testament. Have a good day, and I will